Influence peddling is the practice of using one's influence in government or connections with persons in authority to obtain favours or preferential treatment. But what does this really mean? At its core, influence peddling relies on personal relationships with officials. These connections are used to gain advantages such as contracts, licenses, or policy changes. Imagine a company that secures a lucrative government contract, not because they offer the best service, but because they have a well-connected lobbyist. This is a classic case of influence peddling. Or consider political donations made with the expectation of receiving political favours in return. These donations can sway decisions and policies, benefiting a select few while sidelining the public interest. A key concern often revolves around how susceptible politicians are to influence peddling. To understand that, let's take a look at a major corruption case in the 1980s. To catch politicians engaged in corruption, the FBI set up a fictitious Arabian company called Abdul Enterprise. They were able to videotape politicians accepting bribes from this fictitious company in return for various political favours. In total, 7 members of Congress accepted the bribe. If these politicians were fooled by a simple sting operation, how many of them do you think can be influenced by major, well-known companies that know every loophole in the law and can easily hide any trace of illegal activity? An advanced form of influence peddling is regulatory capture, where industries influence regulatory agencies to shape favourable policies for themselves, often at the expense of consumer protection and market fairness. In some extreme cases, companies play a direct role in drafting the very laws that are supposed to regulate them. A notable example of this is the EU's track and trace system meant to combat cigarette smuggling. A company spun off from Philip Morris International, one of the largest cigarette manufacturers, was paid to implement the software designed to track smuggled cigarettes across Europe. Essentially, a major player in the tobacco industry was allowed to design the very system meant to regulate itself, illustrating the dangerous depth of regulatory capture. The impacts of influence peddling are far-reaching. It erodes public trust, creates unfair competition, misallocates resources, and heightens the perception of corruption. So how can we combat influence peddling? Transparency in decision-making, strict lobbying regulations, accountability mechanisms, and whistleblower protections are crucial steps in the right direction. This video is part of our Anti-Corruption Dictionary series, where we explain key terms related to corruption. Curious how giant companies make billions without paying any taxes? Check out our video on profit shifting. Want to know how corrupt politicians hide their assets? Watch our video on beneficial ownership.